Welcome to Earth, Analyst. Tonight, we journey into the deep past, to a time when the oceans were not just vast and endless, but alive with giants beyond imagination. Long before humans, long before cities, the seas were ruled by a creature so powerful, so immense, that even whales were not safe. This was the age of the Megalodon, the ultimate predator of the ancient ocean. As you settle in, let your mind drift with the currents of time. Picture warm, prehistoric waters filled with strange and wondrous life, where shadows moved beneath the waves. And among them swam the ruler of all the Megalodon, with jaws wide enough to crush bone, teeth longer than a human hand, and a presence that shaped the balance of an entire ocean. We will explore what the ocean was truly like during the age of the Megalodon. Imagine yourself floating in calm, still waters. The moonlight rests softly across the surface. The gentle rise and fall of the sea, a world of powerful currents and drifting shadows, a world where the greatest predator of all time once swam, the Megalodon. It did not need to rush. It had no rivals. It moved with slow, steady force. Each flick of its vast tail propelled it forward like a silent torpedo. Every movement was deliberate. Every motion carried the weight of certainty. Its bite was unmatched in Earth's history. Teeth longer than a human hand, serrated like blades of stone. With one strike, it could crush bone and split skull. Its presence alone was enough to alter the behavior of every other creature. For where the Megalodon swam, silence and fear followed. And yet, as you drift deeper into this vision, you know you are safe. The Megalodon belongs to another time. Its reign ended millions of years ago. Today, it survives only in fossilized teeth buried in sand, in the stories we tell, in the imaginations of those who dream of giants. Breathe slowly, drift deeper. You are weightless now, suspended in that ancient ocean. Around you swim whales smaller than those of today. Giant turtles glide slowly through the currents. Ancient sharks circle in the distance. And then a shadow passes overhead. Vast, dark, a presence that commands stillness. The Megalodon. It moves not as a danger to you, but as a reminder. A reminder of the ocean's strength, of nature's power, of mysteries still hidden beneath the waves. The ocean guards its secrets well, and among its greatest secrets is the story of this predator who vanished into silence. Some believe shifting climates ended its rule. The seas cooled, the food supply thinned. Others believe new predators rose, smaller but faster, changing the balance of the oceans. Whatever the reason, the Megalodon faded away. The ultimate predator passed into extinction, leaving only fossils, shadows, and silence behind. Still, the ocean endures, eternal, endless, its tides whispering across time. As your body grows heavier, as your breath slows, imagine drifting with those ancient currents. You are safe. You are calm. Resting in waters where giants once swam, the Megalodon is gone. But the ocean remains. It rocks you gently as it has rocked the earth for millions of years. Its song lulls you into rest, so let yourself sink into stillness. Let your mind drift deeper. Just as the sea carries its waves, let it carry you into rest. The Megalodon ruled once, but tonight only peace remains. You too may surrender now, letting go of today letting go of thought and drifting into the calm where dreams move like shadows beneath the surface. The oceans of the Megalodon, a chapter whispered in the language of time, a story carried by tides that no longer flow, calling us back to a world millions of years ago. Close your eyes. Imagine the seas of Earth not as you know them now, but as they once were. The water was warmer, the currents richer. Life swarmed in endless variety. Whales smaller than those of today swam in pods. Enormous turtles drifted slowly across open waters. Ancient sharks prowled the edges of reefs. Fish shimmered in schools so vast they turned the water silver. This was not the quiet ocean we imagine at night, but a place alive with constant motion, sound, and struggle. Here, survival was everything. Power was measured not by tools or machines, but by speed. At the very top of this chain, above all others, moved the Megalodon, vast, relentless, with teeth like jagged blades, each longer than a man's hand. Proof that the ocean itself once forged giants to keep its balance. Imagine a creature so large that it could challenge whales. Its shadow darkened shallow bays. Its approach turned the sea into silence. Its bite ended even the strongest prey with one crushing strike. It was the undisputed ruler of its world, and yet the ocean was more than a hunting ground. It was a living system shaped by this predator's presence. Whales traveled carefully, changing their migrations to avoid danger. Schools of fish scattered in new patterns. Even other sharks kept their distance. Every creature in these waters felt the weight of Megalodon's reign. But the Megalodon was not eternal. The seas began to cool. Currents shifted. Food supplies changed. Some believe new predators rose to compete. Slowly, the giant vanished. Its time ended, but the ocean endured, eternal, patient, holding the memory of its ruler in silence. As you breathe in, feel yourself sinking into that ancient sea. A world without cities, a world without time, only the rhythm of waves and the endless drift of life. As you breathe out, let the strength of these creatures wash over you, not with fear, but with wonder. The Megalodon and the oceans it ruled are gone now. The waves that once carried it have long fallen silent. What remains are fragments, fossils, echoes of a predator that shaped the seas, and yet its story endures, carried not in full skeletons, but in something smaller, sharper, and far more common. Its teeth, unearthing giants. Why we mostly find teeth. When we think of the Megalodon, we imagine vast jaws, bodies longer than buses, colossal forms resting at the bottom of the sea like sleeping monsters. But the truth left behind by time is different. The ocean did not preserve these giants whole. What it kept instead were teeth long, triangular, serrated blades, some still sharp, as if they were shed only yesterday. Why teeth? The answer lies in the shark itself. Unlike land animals, sharks have no true bones. Their frames are made of cartilage, light, flexible, perfect for movement in water, but fragile when faced with the pressure of millions of years. Cartilage dissolves, it breaks down, it vanishes. But teeth are different. Teeth are built of enamel, one of the hardest substances in the natural world. Enamel survives where bone cannot, and so when we search through ancient layers of sand and clay, it is teeth that greet us, hundreds of them, A single megalodon carried more than 200 in its mouth, constantly shed, constantly replaced, dropping into the seafloor like leaves falling from a tree. Each one a record, each one a story. From a single tooth, we can imagine the size of the animal that bore it. From a collection, we can glimpse its life, its feeding, its growth, its power. Without these teeth, the megalodon would be only legend, a ghost without shape. But with them, the predator becomes real again, solid, undeniable, and they are found everywhere. On beaches where waves uncover secrets of stone. In rivers where shifting earth reveals what time once buried. In cliffsides where ancient seas left their imprint. Every tooth is a reminder that the ocean once carried giants. As you breathe in, imagine holding one of those ancient teeth in your hand, heavy, cool, serrated at the edges. A fragment of power carried across millions of years. As you breathe out, feel the weight of history resting against your palm. Not just a tooth, but a memory, a shard of the megalodon, a piece of the ancient ocean, a fragment of time itself. And in that moment, you may wonder about the creature it once belonged to. Vast, alive, moving with strength through waters. Teeth are what remain, but even in silence, they are enough. They whisper of giants. They hold the secrets of the sea, fossil clues, vertebrae, and rare skeletal discoveries. When we think of fossils, it is easy to picture whole skeletons laid out in stone, bones preserved like puzzles, waiting to be solved. But for sharks, and for the megalodon most of all, such visions are rare. Instead, we mostly find teeth, those enduring shards of enamel that time could not erase. Yet every so often, the earth yields something rarer. Vertebrae, rings of cartilage, turned to stone. Circles, hardened by minerals. Silent echoes of the backbones that once carried power through the sea. Cartilage was never meant to last millions of years, but in the right conditions, sediments rich in minerals, waters low in oxygen, decay slowed, and structure turned to stone. Each fossil vertebra became a window, not just into the body, but into the life of a giant. For paleontologists, these rings can be read like the rings of a tree. Each layer marks a year of growth, a summer of hunting, a winter of survival in ancient oceans no human ever saw. Vertebrae are not as common as teeth, but when they are found, they tell us of size, of age, of the rhythms of life. They curve into arcs, hinting at spines that once moved with grace and force. They reveal how a tail might have swept through water, how a body might have swayed in endless motion, Sometimes, discoveries reveal clusters vertebrae linked together, sketching the outline of something larger. In rare cases, even fragments of jaws or hardened cartilage appear, preserved by the slow mercy of geology. These finds are precious, scattered across quarries in Belgium, cliffs in Chile, riverbeds in North America. Not a full skeleton, never the whole creature, but enough to remind us that Megalodon was not a myth. It was real. It lived. It swam. It ruled. As you breathe in, imagine brushing your hand across the surface of a fossil vertebra, cool, ridged stone that once was living cartilage. As you breathe out, picture the ocean it belonged to, vast, endless, alive with the shadows of giants. Teeth may tell us of power. Vertebrae tell us of life, of growth, of motion. They are the rarest of discoveries, bridging the gap between imagination and memory, between what has been lost and what we can still hold in our hands, reconstructing the monster. Science meets imagination. What we know of Megalodon is pieced together from fragments, teeth, vertebrae, whispers in stone. From these fragments, scientists build a picture. Teeth tell us of jaws so large they could swallow a human whole with room to spare. Vertebrae tell us of spines built for speed and strength, moving like coiled springs through the deep. But fragments alone cannot tell the full story of the predator that once ruled the seas. To bring the Megalodon back into focus, science must lean gently on imagination. Fossils give us teeth, vertebrae, and hints of cartilage. But what of the rest? The skin stretched across muscle, the eyes scanning the dark, the fins that cut through. Water with steady force. For answers, researchers turn to living sharks, comparing shapes, behaviors, and anatomy, tracing the lineage of the great predators that still roam the oceans today. From the great white, the mako, the tiger shark, and others, a portrait begins to emerge. A body, vast and torpedo-shaped, sleek enough to glide through water, yet massive enough to carry unimaginable power. A tail, like a living engine, driving it forward across entire seas. Jaws layered with hundreds of teeth, replaced endlessly, creating a conveyor of serrated blades ready for the hunt. Skin armored with tiny denticles, scales so fine they cut drag and let the giant slip silently beneath the waves, and eyes forward, set not only to see, but to measure distance, to strike with uncanny accuracy. Each fossil adds a clue, and yet the whole picture remains uncertain. Some reconstructions imagine a heavy-bodied giant moving slowly but with unstoppable momentum, a juggernaut of the deep. Others suggest a leaner, faster hunter built to chase whales across open oceans. In this space between fact and possibility, evidence and vision weave together. Paleontologists measure and compare. Artists sketch the shadows of giants. Digital modelers breathe life into fragments. Piece by piece, the Megalodon swims, again, not exactly as it was, but as it might have been. It is a delicate balance, too much speculation, and the creature drifts into myth. Too little, and it remains faceless, reduced to numbers and fragments of enamel. Somewhere between those extremes lies the image that stays with us, a shark of impossible scale, alive in the seas of long ago. As you breathe in, imagine standing before a reconstructed Megalodon jaw in a museum. Its teeth tower above you like a gateway into another world. As you breathe out, picture that jaw not as bone and display, but as living flesh, closing, striking, swallowing prey in the endless blue. The past may be gone, but through the blend of science and imagination, the shadow swims again, reminding us that even fragments can bring giants back to life. Estimating size, the unmeasurable ocean predator. To measure the Megalodon is to measure the unimaginable. No skeleton remains whole. No ruler could stretch from its snout to its tail. What we know comes from fragments, teeth, vertebrae, comparisons to modern sharks. A single tooth becomes a scale, its width and angle mapping the curve of a jaw, and from that jaw, the head, the body, the size of the beast itself. Vertebrae add more detail. Growth rings count its years. Their diameter hints at the length needed to carry such weight through the ocean with power and grace. The estimates vary, but the numbers echo the same truth. This was no ordinary shark. Some reconstructions place it at 15 meters. Others stretch to 18, 20, even beyond 50 feet, 60, perhaps 70, from nose to tail. Larger than buses, larger than many whales. A body of muscle and cartilage, heavy as stone, yet fluid as water, moving across oceans with quiet inevitability. No number can truly capture it. Whether 50 or 60 feet, the meaning is the same. In the seas of prehistory, this was the absolute, the apex above all others. A predator so vast, so certain in its dominance, that the ocean itself seemed to shape around its presence. And to imagine the Megalodon in motion is to imagine the ocean itself reshaped, its tail swept with the weight of currents, each movement pushing water aside like a tide in miniature. As it rose from the depths, its shadow alone could darken the surface, and its presence could change the path of prey before the hunt even began. A single bite could bring down a whale, not through frenzy, but through inevitability. As you breathe in, let your thoughts stretch to meet this scale. As you breathe out, let the calm of knowing wash over you. The giant no longer moves, no longer hunts. Its vastness remains only in fossil and in imagination. Measuring the unmeasurable is more than science. It is reflection. It is awe. It is the human mind reaching beyond its limits, attempting to hold in thought what cannot be held in hand. In this act of estimation, we honor the Megalodon not with fear, but with reverence, allowing its memory to ripple through us like ancient currents in an endless sea. Bite force, the strongest jaws in Earth's history. The Megalodon's jaws were more than large, they were precision weapons, honed by evolution to dominate. Scientists estimate its bite force at over 18 tons, strong enough to crush a whale's skull or split bone with ease. Even millions of years later, the evidence remains. Fossilized whale bones bearing scars carved by serrated teeth, marks left in silence that still speak of power. Picture the mechanics. Rows of triangular teeth, serrated like blades, aligned to slice flesh cleanly. Massive jaw muscles contracting with explosive strength. Cartilage flexing in rhythm with purpose. Computer models, comparisons to great whites, and other modern sharks give us numbers, but numbers alone cannot capture it. For what does 18 tons of force mean? It means pressure enough to flatten steel, power beyond anything alive today. A force so absolute that it reshaped the behavior of entire ecosystems. And yet, even with such strength, the Megalodon was not reckless. Its strikes were efficient, calculated, aimed with precision to end a hunt swiftly. Its teeth, replaced endlessly throughout its life, ensured that every bite was sharp, every strike decisive. When bones splintered and sank, some became fossils, themselves silent records of encounters that happened millions of years ago. As you breathe in, imagine this force, vast, silent, and certain. As you breathe out, feel the calm of knowing it is gone, leaving only echoes preserved in stone. To calculate bite force is not only science, it is meditation on scale, on strength, on the perfect balance of predator and prey. Comparing titans, Megalodon, blue whale, and great white dot in the measureless ocean, size defines presence. To place the Megalodon in context, we must set it beside other giants of the sea. The blue whale, the largest creature to ever live, stretches over 100 feet, a gentle giant Its heartbeat echoes like thunder in the water, its vast body moving slowly, carried by the deep. Then the great white shark, the modern apex predator, powerful, feared, but at 20 feet, barely a fragment of the giant that came before it. The Megalodon stood between these extremes, smaller than the blue whale, yet an apex unlike any other. Its presence shaped the seas. Where the whale fed in peace, the Megalodon hunted with precision. Where the great white rules today's oceans, the Megalodon once ruled entire epochs. Together, these comparisons remind us not only of scale, but of balance, of how the ocean cradles both the gentle and the terrifying, the titan and the hunter, each shaping the story of life beneath the waves. Sharp, fast, and agile, the great white shark is the ruler of today's seas. It grows up to 20 feet, its teeth smaller than the Megalodon's, but perfectly built for precision, for speed, for strategy. Each strike is sudden, calculated, efficient. It is the hunter of our age. And then there is the Megalodon, a giant lost to time, yet preserved in fossil and imagination. Estimates place it at 50 to 60 feet long, perhaps more. Its teeth, larger than a human hand, were serrated blades. Its jaws, powered by more than 18 tons of bite force, were unmatched in Earth's history. Unlike the gentle feeding of the blue whale or the sharp strikes of the great white, the Megalodon existed for absolute mastery. To compare these titans is to step into a world of contrasts. The blue whale, a mountain of calm, feeding on the smallest creatures, yet shaping the seas through its vast presence. The great white, a missile of teeth and muscle, swift and cunning, ruling its waters with strategy. And the Megalodon, both mountain and missile combined, massive, powerful, yet built to hunt, to dominate, to rule without rival. Imagine them side by side, if only in thought. The blue whale's broad back breaking the surface in a rhythm as old as the tides. The great white's fin slicing the waves, a flash of sudden power. And the Megalodon, unseen but felt, a colossal shadow rising from the depths. A reminder of oceans beyond comprehension. As you breathe in, picture their scale. As you breathe out, let yourself float in calm. These titans, separated by millions of years, meet only in imagination. But even here, they teach us. They remind us that the ocean is not just a place of size and power, but of balance, of niches filled by creatures as gentle as the whale, as cunning as the shark. Top of the food chain is to hold a position unmatched. Apex predators are not chosen by size alone, nor speed, nor strength. They are defined by influence, by the way their presence shapes entire ecosystems. The Megalodon was such a predator. Its size and power placed it above nearly every marine creature of its time. It hunted whales, giant fish, even other sharks. Its shadow dictated behavior. Its presence enforced balance. Entire species lived in awareness of its dominance. Yet being an apex predator is more than hunting. It is about keeping the ocean in order. Today, great whites, tiger sharks, and orcas fulfill similar roles. They control populations. They preserve the health of prey. They keep ecosystems from collapse. The Megalodon was the keystone of its seas, a force that kept balance through strength and fear, shaping the ancient ocean in ways still felt in fossil memory as you breathe in. Imagine the immense authority of such a being moving silently beneath the waves. as you breathe out, feel the calm of the ocean, knowing that, although the Megalodon no longer swims, its legacy of dominance and balance continues to teach us about the role of apex predators. To stand at the top of the food chain is not simply to wield power, it is to carry responsibility. The way one life can shape the lives of many, the way strength is balanced by influence, and the way that even in absence, the memory of a predator continues to echo through time. The Megalodon remains apex, not only in its size and force, but in imagination, in influence, in the enduring mark it left upon the seas. Its reign carried across millions of years into oceans that shifted and changed, into a world now lost, the Miocene epoch. To understand the Megalodon, we must step back into that age, a time millions of years before humans walked the earth. Oceans were warmer then, often shallower in their reaches, and overflowing with life. Imagine vast seas stretching across young continents, still drifting and reshaping the globe. The waters shimmered with schools of fish, glimmering silver in the light. Coastal bays, estuaries, and reefs were crowded places, alive with prey, unaware that they swam within the hunting grounds of giants. The currents of this ancient ocean flowed differently. Some regions were slow and warm, heavy with nutrients. Others were quick and cool, carrying abundance across great distances. Every pocket of water shaped the creatures within it. Whales, smaller than those we know today, migrated in rhythm with the seasons. Sharks of every size competed for their place. Life was plentiful, diverse, and balanced, and in these waters swam the Megalodon, a perfect predator in a perfect ocean for its size and strength. Warm seas fueled its metabolism. Endless prey supported its growth. Shallow hunting grounds gave it stealth and surprise, where speed could meet opportunity. It moved through this world not as an intruder, but as its ruler, shaping the balance simply by existing. As you breathe in, imagine sunlight spilling down into those ancient waters, lighting up swarms of plankton and fish. Imagine whales gliding in slow arcs, their songs echoing through the seas. And then, beneath them, the shadow of something vast, gliding silently, unseen but always present. As you breathe out, feel the calm of those waters, knowing they were once ruled by a predator whose size and strength have no equal in the oceans of today. The Miocene world was not static. Seas shifted, climates changed, continents continued their long drift. Yet through it all, the Megalodon endured, a constant presence in a changing sea, a giant that shaped its world, not only through the hunt, but through the influence of its existence. And in this world, we see not only the predator, but the deep interconnectedness of life, the ebb and flow of energy through ecosystems, the balance maintained by apex creatures, the delicate harmony of an ocean millions of years old. The Miocene seas were alive, vast and mysterious, and in their warm embrace, the Megalodon swam silent, unseen, an enormous presence in a world both familiar and alien. A reminder that the oceans have always held wonders beyond human comprehension, and that even in sleep we can drift alongside them, feeling their motion, their warmth, their infinite depth. But the world did not remain the same. The Miocene gave way to the Pliocene, and with this new epoch, the seas began to shift. Coastlines expanded, reaching farther into continents. New currents rose and fell, reshaping the waters, carrying nutrients to regions they had never touched before. The changes began subtly, then grew more dramatic, opening opportunities for some species, while closing doors for others. Shallow seas spread outward, forming vast bays and estuaries. Schools of fish gathered in great numbers, shimmering like silver clouds. Pods of whales followed new routes, their migrations now guided by reshaped tides and altered rhythms. For the Megalodon, these changes brought abundance, new prey to pursue, new waters to command. Whales diversified, some smaller, some larger, each a new challenge, each a potential feast. Other sharks and marine mammals evolved, filling new niches, competing for food, shaping a web of life both richer and more complex. The currents themselves became actors in this story. Cold waters flowed where warmth had once lingered. Nutrient-rich upwellings drew life into concentrated blooms. These invisible rivers of temperature and salt dictated the movements of predators and prey alike, reminding us that the ocean is not static, but alive, dynamic, forever in motion. The Megalodon moved through this changing seascape with ease. Its instincts honed by millions of years of evolution, it adjusted to new hunting grounds, followed prey across thousands of miles, timed its strikes with migrations. A master of adaptation, a giant perfectly suited to the demands of a shifting ocean. And yet, even here, in the midst of abundance, the Pliocene carried hints of fragility. The first quiet notes of change, the slow and subtle pressures that would, in time, reshape the seas forever as you breathe in. Imagine the expanding coastlines of this world, the sunlight dancing across shallow bays, the motion of fish moving as one, like liquid silver beneath the waves. As you breathe out, picture the vast shadow of the Megalodon gliding silently below, eternal, patient, balanced by the ocean that sustained it in this moment. The predator was not only power, but harmony, not only fear, but necessity, a being perfectly matched to its time, perfectly fitted to a world in flux, a reminder that life thrives when it adapts, and even the greatest of giants must follow the currents of change. The Pliocene was a time of transition, of change, of shifting seas and emerging ecosystems. And in this ocean, the Megalodon swam, a living testament to the power of evolution, the beauty of adaptation, and the enduring mystery of the deep. Even as the world began to change around it, the predator remained supreme, moving silently through warm, shallow waters, following the rhythms of life, always hunting, always present. A reminder that the oceans are ancient, alive, and filled with stories waiting to be remembered. The perfect predator, speed, size, and stealth. Speed, size, and stealth. To understand the Megalodon is to understand the perfect balance of traits that made it the apex of the ancient seas. Size alone would not have sufficed, for a giant that could not move with precision, that could not strike with efficiency, would have been vulnerable. But the Megalodon combined immense size with surprising speed, gliding through water like a shadow, its tail propelling it forward with silent power, currents flowing past its massive body as though water itself recognized its authority. Stealth was as important as strength, for prey could flee if warned too soon. The Megalodon relied on instinct, on subtle movements, on the ability to rise from depth unseen, to approach quietly in the dim blue of the ocean, waiting for the precise moment to strike. And when it did, speed and size worked together, jaws opening with explosive force, teeth aligned perfectly to grip, crush, and consume. Imagine a whale, unaware, gliding through a shallow bay, currents pushing it gently, unaware that beneath it moves a shadow larger than any threat it has ever encountered. And then, in a fraction of a moment, the predator strikes. Jaws clamping with unimaginable pressure, muscles and cartilage combining to create a force far beyond human comprehension. Every hunt was a balance of patience and precision, of stealth and power, of instinct and calculation, honed over millions of years. As you breathe in, imagine the predator gliding silently, sensing the movement of its prey, adjusting its position with imperceptible grace. As you breathe out, feel the calm of the surrounding water, the soft rocking of currents, the gentle pulse of the ocean as it carries both hunter and hunted. Speed alone could not define the Megalodon, nor size alone, nor stealth alone. It was the combination of these traits that created the perfect predator, a being capable of surviving in a world full of giants, a being whose presence shaped ecosystems, dictated the behavior of whales, sharks, and marine mammals, and maintained balance in the ocean through sheer mastery. And though the predator no longer swims these seas, we can imagine it now moving through warm, shallow waters with effortless grace, following patterns of prey, sensing vibrations in the water, choosing the moment to strike, a living embodiment of evolutions designed for efficiency and dominance. Speed, size, and stealth together created not merely a hunter, but a ruler of the ocean, a force that inspired fear, demanded respect, and remains, even in imagination, the ultimate apex predator. And as you drift deeper into this thought, your own body relaxed, your mind calm, you can float alongside the Megalodon in spirit, observing the harmony of traits that made it perfect, feeling the rhythm of the hunt, the silent power of water, and the enduring wonder of a predator built by time, perfected by evolution, and remembered forever in shadow and fossil, serrated blades, the weaponry of Megalodon's teeth. The teeth of the Megalodon were more than tools. They were instruments of survival, perfectly evolved to dominate the oceans of their time. Each tooth was a serrated blade, a piece of armor and weapon combined, designed to grip, slice, and hold prey with unerring precision. Imagine a tooth as long as a human hand, curved, sharp, serrations like tiny saws etched into enamel, capable of tearing through the thick blubber and bones of whales. Teeth were replaced constantly throughout the Megalodon's life, hundreds, perhaps thousands, over decades, ensuring that every bite was as deadly as the first. Unlike the soft cartilage of its skeleton, these teeth were durable, enduring the passage of millions of years, fossilized reminders of a predator that no longer swims. Each tooth tells a story of feeding, of hunting, of a creature whose very existence reshaped marine ecosystems. As scientists study these fossils, they measure serrations, angles, curvature, deducing not only size, but how the predator attacked, how it consumed its prey, and even how it lived. Imagine the precision, a slight tilt of the jaw, a perfect alignment of teeth, pressure applied with unerring accuracy, enough to pierce bone and hold fast. And yet these teeth were not weapons of recklessness. They were tools of efficiency, allowing the Megalodon to consume enormous prey without waste, to survive in a world where failure meant death. As you breathe in, picture the glint of enamel under sunlight, the smooth curve and jagged edge, the perfection of design honed by evolution. As you breathe out, let yourself drift in calm, imagining the predator gliding silently beneath, its teeth ready, its senses alert, the water flowing past in endless rhythm. Serrated blades were more than weapons. They were extensions of the predator, as integral to life as muscles, fins, or tail. They allowed the Megalodon to hunt with dominance, to influence entire food chains, to command fear and respect in every creature that shared its oceans. Each fossilized tooth, discovered millions of years later, is a window into that life, a tangible piece of power, a reminder of a predator whose teeth could slice through giants. And as you imagine them now, teeth embedded in jaws of immense proportion, remember that each serration, each edge, was crafted by nature to perfection, a tool that shaped life, dictated survival, and remains even in stone, a testament to the power of the ultimate apex predator. And as you drift deeper into sleep, you can feel the quiet majesty of these serrated blades, the calm of the ocean, the memory of a predator whose teeth still shine in fossils, still echo in imagination, and still remind us of the balance, the beauty, and the terror of life in the deep ancient seas. Feeding habits, hunting early whales and large fish. The Megalodon was a hunter shaped by the rhythms of the sea, a predator whose very life depended on movement, precision, and understanding the patterns of its prey. Its diet was vast, but early whales and large fish formed the backbone of its sustenance, creatures that moved in pods and schools, unaware of the silent shadow gliding beneath. Whales, though smaller than modern giants, provided enormous amounts of energy, a single meal enough to sustain a predator for days, perhaps weeks, in a world where every hunt carried risk and effort. Large fish, swift and agile, tested the Megalodon's speed and stealth, forcing it to perfect its strikes, to adjust its approach, to synchronize the power of tail, jaws, and teeth with the rhythm of water and prey. Hunting was an art as much as a necessity. The predator observed currents, migration patterns, and feeding grounds approaching with patience, circling quietly, striking only when the moment was perfect. Imagine the ocean teeming with life, schools of fish flashing silver in sunlight, whales moving in graceful arcs, and beneath the enormous form of the silent, watching, calculating, waiting, and then a movement, a breach, a chance. The predator strikes with incredible force, teeth aligned, jaws crushing, muscles contracting, tail propelling with precision. Bones splinter, blubber, tears, and the predator consumes its prize with efficiency honed by millions of years of evolution. Yet feeding was not mindless. It was controlled, balanced, a demonstration of power applied with restraint, ensuring survival without waste. As you breathe in, imagine the motion of the predator gliding effortlessly, sensing every vibration, following the subtle cues in water that signal life. As you breathe out, let the calm of the ocean envelop you, the ebb and flow carrying both predator and prey in timeless rhythm, reminding you that survival is as much about patience as power. hunting early whales and large fish shaped not only the Megalodon, but entire ecosystems, influencing migration behavior and even evolution of prey species. Each successful hunt reinforced the predator's dominance. Each failure a lesson in adaptation. Each day a continuation of life in the vast, warm, shallow seas of the Miocene and Pliocene. And though the Megalodon no longer swims, we can imagine it now moving with purpose, hunting with precision, sustaining itself, maintaining balance in a world of abundance and danger. Its feeding habits remind us that life in the ocean is interconnected, that predator and prey exist in harmony and tension, that survival is a dance of instinct, strategy, and power. And as you drift deeper into thought and sleep, you can float beside it, witnessing the silent mastery of an apex predator, feeling the calm, the vastness, and the eternal rhythm of the seas in which it once reigned supreme. Fossilized evidence, whale bones with gigantic bite marks. The silent testimony of the Megalodon survives not only in teeth and vertebrae, but also in the bones of its prey. Fossilized reminders of moments frozen in time. Moments when predator met whale in the depths of ancient seas. Imagine a whale drifting through warm waters millions of years ago, unaware of the enormous shadow gliding beneath its body. Strong yet no match for the precision, speed, and strength of the ultimate hunter. And then the striker jaw opening with explosive power, teeth clamping down with incredible force, serrated edges slicing through blubber and bones, leaving marks that would endure long after flesh decayed, long after the predator moved on. These bite marks, etched into fossilized whale bones, are more than mere impressions, They are records of behavior, of hunting strategy, of survival on a scale that humbles the human imagination. Scientists study the size, depth, and pattern of these marks, reconstructing the size of the predator, the angle of the strike, even the sequence of bites in a single feeding event. Each bone is a puzzle piece, revealing the Megalodon's method, its dominance, its capacity to consume enormous prey with efficiency honed by millions of years of evolution. Some fossils show repeated attacks, scars healed before death, suggesting encounters with the predator were as common as they were terrifying, shaping the behavior of whales, influencing migration, and creating a ripple effect through ecosystems. As you breathe in, picture the immense jaws closing around the rib of a whale, the subtle give of blubber, the cracking of bone under unstoppable pressure. As you breathe out, imagine the bone settling into sediment, preserved through time, waiting millions of years to speak once more to us through fossil record. These bite marks are proof of power, yes, but also of precision, of survival, of the intricate dance between hunter and prey that defines the apex of the food chain. They remind us that the ocean is not only home to life, but also to struggle, strategy, and the incredible adaptations that evolution produces over millennia. Each fossilized bone with teeth marks is a window into a day in the life of the predator, a moment of reality in a world long vanished, a silent testament to the size, speed, and strength of a creature that ruled the seas without contest. And though the Megalodon has vanished, these bones speak, carrying the echoes of violence, survival, and dominance, whispering to us across millions of years about the reality of life in the oceans, about the scale of the predator, and about the deep, enduring power of nature's designs. As you drift into thought and sleep, you can imagine floating alongside these moments, seeing the predator strike, feeling the rhythm of ancient seas, sensing the tension, the calm, and the eternal flow of life and death that shaped the deep, mysterious waters of the past of the past. Trophic levels explained. Nature's hierarchy of energy. Life in the ocean is a network of relationships, a delicate balance of energy passed from one creature to another. And understanding the Megalodon requires understanding this hierarchy. These trophic levels that structure existence beneath the waves. At the base are the tiniest of organisms, plankton drifting with currents, microscopic yet abundant, capturing sunlight and nutrients, converting them into energy that will ripple upward through the ocean's food web. Small fish feed on plankton, larger fish feed on small fish, and in turn, larger predators rise, each level consuming the one below, transferring energy, sustaining life, maintaining balance. The Megalodon occupied the pinnacle of this pyramid, an apex predator whose influence extended far beyond the meals it consumed. By hunting whales, large fish, and other sharks, it controlled populations, prevented overgrazing of certain species, and maintained the rhythm of life across entire ecosystems. Energy flowed through its body as it moved, hunted, and fed, a culmination of countless meals from creatures that had themselves consumed the abundance of the ocean. Without apex predators, like the Megalodon, balance could falter. Prey might overpopulate, ecosystems could shift, and the entire network of life might experience cascading effects. Understanding trophic levels is to see life as a system interconnected, where every bite has consequences, where every predator shapes the future of the ocean. As you breathe in, picture the sunlight entering the water, energizing plankton, feeding small fish, which feed larger fish, which feed sharks, and finally reaching the Megalodon, the ultimate consumer of energy. In this ancient sea, as you breathe out, feel the calm, the rhythm of the ocean, the flow of energy moving unseen, connecting every creature, large and small, in a web of life that is both fragile and enduring. The hierarchy of energy is not rigid. It is dynamic, shifting with seasons, migrations, and environmental changes. Yet the apex predator remains a constant, a force of stability, guiding the ebb and flow of life below, even millions of years after its extinction. The Megalodon reminds us of the power and responsibility carried by apex predators, the way that one life can influence many, the way that energy flows through ecosystems in endless cycles of survival, consumption, and renewal. Each trophic level carries a story, a lesson, a reflection of balance and adaptation. And at the top, the Megalodon stood as both master and participant, shaping the seas, sustaining the web, and leaving an enduring imprint on the oceans of the past. As you drift into deeper thought, imagine this hierarchy flowing around you, energy moving silently, life persisting, balance maintained, and the memory of the ultimate predator guiding the unseen rhythm of ancient waters. Part 2. A world of giants and shifting tides, and a time when the oceans were ruled by giants, when every wave and current carried life of immense scale, when the water itself seemed alive with movement and power. The Megalodon swam alongside whales, smaller than today's giants, but formidable in their own right. alongside enormous sharks, massive fish, and marine mammals that thrived in warm, shallow seas. Each species was part of a complex, interwoven ecosystem where size and strength dictated behavior, survival, and the dance of predator and prey. But the world was not static. Tides shifted, coastlines expanded, and the arrangement of continents subtly changed the rhythm of the seas. Currents carried warmth and nutrients to new regions, opening feeding grounds, creating migration paths, altering habitats in ways both subtle and profound. The Megalodon moved through this ever-changing landscape with instinctive mastery, following prey, adapting to new hunting grounds, maintaining dominance over waters that were vast, dynamic, and alive. Giants of the ocean influenced each other in ways that might seem invisible, yet were essential to survival, shaping behavior, migration, and reproductive cycles. And yet, the shifting tides carried challenges as well, altering temperatures, food availability, and the very structure of the seas, forcing adaptation or risking decline. As you breathe in, picture these ancient oceans stretching beyond the horizon, sunlight filtering through warm waters, the motion of whales and fish beneath the surface, and the quiet presence of the Megalodon gliding through, sensing every movement, every current. As you breathe out, feel the rhythm of tides and seasons, the ebb and flow of life, the quiet balance maintained through power, adaptation, and instinct. Life in these seas was a dialogue between strength and environment, a delicate interplay between predator and prey, between abundance and scarcity, between stability and change. The Megalodon's dominance was shaped by this dynamic world, its survival intertwined with the giants and currents around it, its legacy preserved in teeth, vertebrae, and fossilized memories of predation. Even as millions of years passed, the story of these giants, their interactions, and the shifting tides remains embedded in the fossil record, reminding us of a world vast, complex, and full of wonder. And as you drift deeper into thought and sleep, imagine floating through these ancient waters, observing the silent power of the Megalodon, the grace of whales, the rhythm of currents, and the eternal movement of life shaped by giants and tides, a meditation on scale, balance, and the ever-changing ocean that carried them all. Beyond teeth, the rare vertebral column discoveries, while teeth dominate the fossil record, offering dramatic proof of the Megalodon's existence. Vertebrae provide a quieter, rarer glimpse into the creature's true scale, its growth, and the mechanics of its immense body. Each vertebra, circular and solid, carries the story of years of life. Rings marking growth, like the rings of ancient trees recording seasons, age, and development of a predator unparalleled in the seas. These fossils are uncommon because cartilage, the material forming much of a shark's skeleton, rarely fossilizes, leaving only the hardest structures to survive the passage of millions of years. Yet even these fragments speak volumes, revealing proportions, flexibility, and the incredible size the Megalodon must have reached. The distance from head to tail, the curvature that allowed such power in swimming, the strength to propel a massive body silently and efficiently through water. By measuring vertebrae, scientists can estimate length, reconstruct muscle attachments, and imagine the motion of the creature as it glided, hunted, and dominated its world. Each discovery is a reminder that the Megalodon was not merely teeth and jaws, but an integrated organism, a predator built from head to tail for survival, hunting, and dominance. Vertebrae also hint at age and maturity, showing how long the megalodon could live, how many seasons it witnessed, how it adapted to changes in prey and ocean conditions across its lifespan. As you breathe in, picture these bones lying quietly in sediment preserved for eons, each one a key to unlocking the mysteries of a creature that ruled the seas. As you breathe out, imagine reconstructing the enormous body in your mind. Vertebrae aligned, muscles imagined, tail poised for power, swimming through warm, shallow waters with effortless mastery. Rare vertebral discoveries complement the teeth, providing context, dimension, and life to the predator known mostly through singular dramatic evidence. They remind us that the megalodon was a living, moving force, a being shaped by evolution to perfection, whose body was designed for speed, stealth, and power in equal measure. And though these bones are silent now, they speak through careful study, through reconstruction, through imagination, allowing us to glimpse the predator in motion, the predator in life, not just in fossil fragments. Each vertebra is a testament to the scale of the megalodon, the precision of nature's design, and the enduring fascination of a creature that, though extinct, continues to dominate our thoughts, our research, and our dreams of ancient oceans. And as you drift deeper into sleep, imagine the vertebrae aligned, the body complete, gliding beneath sunlit waters, the rhythm of the tail, the silent authority of an apex predator, the majesty of life scaled to perfection, and the quiet wonder of discovery that connects us across millions of years to the ultimate giant of the seas, redrawing the body from stocky beast. Streamlined, hunterly depictions of the megalodon imagined a stocky, almost lumbering creature, massive and imposing, but lacking the subtlety needed to understand its role as the ultimate predator. Over time, as fossils, vertebrae, and teeth were studied in detail, a new vision emerged, a sleek, streamlined hunter, built for speed, efficiency, and lethal precision. The megalodon's body, once thought heavy and awkward, is now understood to have been shaped like a perfect machine, its proportions optimized to move silently through water, to ambush prey, and to exert extraordinary power when striking. Its massive tail, wide and muscular, provided thrust, while its fins were positioned for balance and maneuverability, allowing sudden bursts of speed when the moment to attack arrived. Vertebrae, rare and precious, reveal flexibility, showing that the predator could bend, twist, and turn with astonishing agility, countering assumptions that size meant clumsiness. Teeth, serrated and perfectly aligned, fit seamlessly into jaws, capable of opening wide, closing fast, and applying crushing force precisely where needed. Each fossil, each bone, each fragment contributed to a growing understanding of the predator as a cohesive, elegant organism, not just a collection of monstrous parts. Scientists use computer models, comparisons with modern sharks, and biomechanical analysis to recreate movement, posture, and even likely hunting strategies. Imagining the predator gliding through ancient oceans, sensing vibrations, tracking prey, and striking with unparalleled efficiency. As you breathe in, picture this sleek form cutting through sun-depelled waters, fins balancing, tail propelling, jaw ready, muscles taut with quiet power. As you breathe out, feel the harmony of body and environment. The predator perfectly adapted to its domain, a creature of both beauty and terror, a living machine sculpted by millions of years of evolution. The shift from stocky beast to streamlined hunter reflects not just scientific progress, but a deeper understanding of life in motion, of how predators evolve to meet the challenges of their environment, and how every detail, from vertebrae to tail fin, contributes to survival. This reconstruction brings the megalodon to life in imagination, allowing us to perceive it as it may have truly existed: efficient, agile, immense, and deadly. A predator whose design reflects both power and elegance. And as you drift deeper into thought and sleep, imagine gliding beside it, observing its motion, sensing the rhythm of muscles and water, feeling the quiet perfection of evolution, manifested in one of the ocean's greatest hunters. A reminder that life, even in its most fearsome form, is crafted with precision, purpose, and harmony. Daily life of a giant, hunting, rest, and migration. The life of a megalodon was a continuous flow, guided by instinct, opportunity, and the rhythms of the ocean. Each day was shaped by the pursuit of sustenance, the movement of prey, and the patterns of the seas themselves. A delicate balance between energy, expenditure, and survival. Hunting was central, a dance of patience and power. The predator would glide silently beneath the surface, muscles rippling with controlled force, tail propelling it forward, fins stabilizing each movement, senses attuned to vibrations, shadows, and the faintest motion. Schools of fish shimmered ahead, whales breached the waters above, and the megalodon, massive yet elegant, followed without haste, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. And when it did, jaws opened wide, teeth aligned, force delivered with precision, securing a meal that would sustain it for days. Yet life was not all hunting. Moments of rest were essential, even for a creature so immense. Slow, effortless, swimming through warm waters allowed muscles to relax, energy to be conserved, and senses to remain alert without exertion. The currents carried it gently, a drifting rhythm that balanced the exertion of predation with the calm of inactivity, a quiet meditation in motion. Migration was another defining aspect of daily life, a journey dictated by the movement of prey, seasonal changes, and the pursuit of optimal conditions for hunting and reproduction. These migrations could span thousands of miles, silent passages through deep and shallow waters guided by instinct and memory, a navigation perfected over millions of years of evolution. As you breathe in, imagine the megalodon moving through sunlit bays, through deep blue corridors of the ocean, sensing the pull of prey and currents alike. As you breathe out, feel the gentle rocking of the waves, the rhythm of the sea supporting this giant, a balance between effort and ease, between hunter and environment. Daily life was a combination of moments of power and moments of calm, each necessary to sustain the giant body, to maintain dominance in a world of giants and shifting tides. It was a life of fluidity, of constant adaptation, of awareness and precision, where every movement, every choice, and every pause contributed to survival. And though we cannot witness it directly, fossils, teeth, vertebrae, and bite marks allow us to reconstruct these rhythms, to imagine the predator gliding silently, hunting efficiently, resting deliberately, migrating across the vast expanse of the ocean with quiet mastery as you drift deeper into sleep. Picture this ancient giant moving with effortless grace, sensing the world, responding with instinct, and living a life perfectly adapted to the demands of the ultimate apex predator. The ebb and flow of hunting, rest, and migration mirrors the pulse of the ocean itself, a meditation on balance, survival, and the timeless dance of life beneath the waves. A rhythm that continues to echo in imagination long after the Megalodon has vanished from our seas. Prey of choice, early whales, seals, and large fish. The Megalodon's menu was as vast as the oceans themselves. Yet certain creatures stood out as the primary focus of its predation, guiding hunting patterns and shaping the predator's very existence. Early whales were at the top of this list, their size providing an immense source of energy, their abundance creating predictable hunting opportunities. These whales, smaller than modern giants, but still formidable, swam in pods, unaware of the shadow, gliding silently beneath, sensing currents and vibrations, yet unable to detect the predator's precise approach. Seals and pinnipeds offered a different challenge, smaller but swift and agile, requiring bursts of speed, strategic maneuvering, and precise strikes. Large fish, both solitary and schooling, demanded adaptation, forcing the predator to perfect ambush, timing, and jaw alignment. Each prey type shaped a different aspect of the Megalodon's hunting strategy, combining speed, power, and stealth in unique ways. The predator's senses were attuned to the subtleties of water, detecting the faintest movements, vibrations, and disturbances, guiding it toward prey with uncanny accuracy. As you breathe in, imagine a pod of early whales gliding through sunlit waters, oblivious to the predator beneath. Moving with grace and rhythm, each tail beat a pulse of life. As you breathe out, sense the shadow beneath them, immense and silent. Tails swishing with measured force, jaws poised, teeth ready, muscles coiled for a strike of incredible precision and power. Hunting seals required bursts of agility, a chase across shallow bays, a sudden ambush, teeth clamping on blubber and bone. Efficiency paramount, energy conserved for survival. Large fish added another dimension, requiring adaptability, strategy, and timing, testing every skill honed by evolution over millions of years. The predator's choice of prey reflects not only caloric needs, but ecological influence, controlling populations, shaping migration, and maintaining balance across ecosystems. And though we cannot witness these ancient interactions, bite marks, fossilized bones, and reconstructed feeding patterns provide glimpses into this ancient drama, revealing the predator's preference, skill, and dominance. Daily life was shaped by these choices. The predator following patterns, anticipating movements, conserving energy, and striking when opportunity arose. And as you drift deeper into sleep, imagine the predator in motion, selecting its prey, moving with quiet authority, hunting early whales, seals, and large fish with perfect mastery. A meditation on survival, adaptation, and the intricate web of life beneath the waves. Each prey encounter was a dance of strategy, instinct, and power. A story written in the currents, in teeth marks, and in the rhythms of the ancient ocean. echoing across millions of years to remind us of the majesty, precision, and dominance of the megalods of the megalith. Hunting strategy, ambush, predator, or pursuit killer. The bones of ancient whales, sharks, and other marine creatures carry silent testimony of encounters with the fossils that preserve moments of predation frozen in time, offering glimpses into the life and power of this apex predator. Each bite mark etched into thick bone is more than a wound. It is evidence of behavior, a record of hunting strategy, precision, and the application of immense force. Some fossils reveal a single strike, a calculated attempt to incapacitate prey, while others show repeated bites, telling a story of pursuit, struggle, and survival. The size, shape, and depth of these marks allow scientists to reconstruct the predator's jaw, its bite force, and even its hunting approach, bridging millions of years of time to bring the Megalodon into understanding. Imagine a whale drifting in the warm Miocene waters, oblivious to the shadow beneath, when suddenly jaws of unimaginable power close, teeth serenading through blubber and bone, leaving marks that would endure long after the flesh disappeared. Some fossils even show healing around bite marks, evidence that prey survived initial attacks, hinting at resilience, strategy, and the ongoing dance between predator and prey. These bones reveal the scope of the Megalodon's influence, showing how apex predators shape populations, migration patterns, and the evolution of other species. As you breathe in, picture the fossilized bone, smooth yet scarred, resting in sediment for millions of years, a silent messenger from an ancient ocean. As you breathe out, imagine the predator in motion, gliding through water with calculated stealth, jaws ready, muscles rippling, a being whose very existence dictated the rhythm of life around it. Each fossil tells a story not only of power, but also of precision, patience, and the ecological role of the It was not a mindless predator. It hunted strategically, targeting prey efficiently, consuming energy with purpose, influencing ecosystems through every attack. These fossilized records provide a tangible link to the past, reminding us that the apex predator was real, immense, and dominant, and that its interactions with other marine life shaped the oceans in profound ways. As you drift deeper into thought and sleep, imagine floating through these ancient seas, observing the predator in action, sensing the tension between hunter and hunted, the silent authority of the Megalodon, and the enduring evidence left behind in bones that carry stories across millions of years. The echoes of these attacks are still visible in fossils, teaching us about life, survival, and the intricate balance of the ocean, and allowing us to witness in imagination the majestic and terrifying reality of the ultimate giant of the seas. Megal nurseries, coastal shallows for the young. Even giants must begin small. And for the Megalodon, survival began in sheltered coastal shallows, where warm waters and abundant prey created ideal conditions for the young. These nursery areas were havens protected from the full force of adult predators, rich with food sources to sustain rapid growth and carefully chosen by instinct, a subtle guidance handed down through millions of years of evolution. Juvenile megalodons, though small in comparison to their parents, were formidable hunters in miniature, learning the rhythms of the ocean, the movements of prey, and the nuances of stealth and strike. Early fish and small marine mammals provided nutrition, teaching the young predator the balance of energy, expenditure, and survival. The shallow waters offered protection, but also challenges, currents, temperature changes, and smaller predators tested the developing sharks, shaping agility, strength, and instinct. Imagine the sunlight glimmering across calm bays, the water warm, teeming with tiny fish, with the young Megalodon learning to glide, to twist, to hunt, to sense the subtle vibrations of life around it. As you breathe in, feel the gentle motion of these nursery waters, the rhythm of tides carrying nutrients and opportunity. A quiet stage for learning, growth, and survival. As you breathe out, sense the protective calm, the gradual mastery of the young predators, their senses sharpening, muscles strengthening, instincts guiding them toward eventual dominance in the open ocean. Nurseries were not merely habitats. They were classrooms of survival, places where life skills were honed, strategies developed, and the foundations of future hunting mastery laid. Each juvenile that survived the shallows carried forward the legacy of the species, growing into the massive, efficient apex predators that would dominate seas for millions of years. And though time has passed, fossils hint at these areas. Tooth fragments, bite marks, and sedimentary evidence revealing the quiet, vital importance of coastal nurseries in shaping one of the ocean's greatest hunters. Daily life in these nurseries was a blend of growth, play, hunting practice, and instinctive learning, a rhythm perfectly aligned with the gentle energy of shallow waters. And as you drift deeper into sleep, imagine the young megalodons gliding through sunlit shallows, sensing movement, practicing strikes, learning the pulse of the ocean, a meditation on growth, survival, and the quiet preparation that enables greatness. Coastal nurseries were where the future of the species was nurtured, where life began, where the rhythm of hunting, learning, and adaptation took root, reminding us that even giants rely on the protection, guidance, and abundance of smaller, gentler waters to thrive in the vast, mysterious ocean. Fossil hotspots: Panama, North America, and Europe. If we want to understand the life of the megalodon, we must follow its fossil trail, scattered across continents and oceans, hidden in stone and sediment. The most common fossils we find are teeth, colossal serrated triangles, some the size of a human hand, each one a story frozen in time. These teeth are discovered in remarkable abundance in Panama, where ancient, shallow seas once provided feeding grounds and nurseries for the giants. In the cliffs and riverbeds of this region, paleontologists sift through layers of sediment, unearthing the legacy of a predator that swam here millions of years ago. North America, too, is rich with megalodon remains, particularly along the eastern seaboard of the United States, from Florida to the Carolinas. Rivers, quarries, and beaches revealed tooth after tooth washed from ancient seabeds and carried into the hands of modern collectors. Each discovery is a reminder that these waters once echoed with the movements of immense predators, patrolling coasts, hunting whales, and shaping marine ecosystems. Farther inland, fossil beds preserve vertebrae and rare skeletal fragments, giving scientists glimpses into how the megalodon's body was built. Across the Atlantic, Europe also yields its share of treasures. In countries like Belgium and Spain, fossil deposits reveal not just teeth, but broader snapshots of Miocene and Pliocene marine life, showing how Megalodon lived alongside early whales, dolphins, and other sharks. These fossil hotspots are like windows in time, each one revealing a fragment of a world where oceans were warmer, sea levels higher, and predators larger than anything alive today. Imagine standing at the edge of a quarry in Panama or walking along a riverbank in North Carolina, your eyes scanning the sand until you find it a massive triangular tooth blackened by time heavy in your hand, a piece of a giant that once ruled the seas. These fossils connect us to a creature that no longer swims the oceans, yet whose shadow still drifts in our imagination. Every hotspot, every site of discovery, tells not just of the Megalodon itself, but of the ecosystems it shaped. As you breathe in, picture the calm persistence of rivers eroding stone, carrying fossils toward discovery as you breathe out. Imagine the patient hands of paleontologists brushing away sediment, revealing teeth that have lain hidden for millions of years. Fossil hotspots are more than scientific sites. They are resting places of memory, archives of an ancient ocean that waits beneath our feet. And as you drift deeper into calm thought, imagine these teeth as anchors of history, grounding us to the deep past, reminding us that life on Earth has always been vast, shifting and full of mysteries still waiting to surface. Protecting the young evolutionary advantages of nurseries. In the vast and unpredictable oceans of the Miocene and Pliocene, survival was not guaranteed even for giants. The Megalodon, despite its immense size and power, entered the world as something small, fragile, and vulnerable. Fossil evidence suggests that juvenile megalodons were not born in the open deep seas where predators and competition were fierce, but in shallow lagoons and estuaries where conditions offered safety and abundance. These environments, rich in smaller fish and free from many large predators, provided the perfect balance of protection and nourishment for the young. The fossil record shows concentrations of smaller megalodon teeth in certain coastal areas, a strong hint that these were designated breeding and rearing grounds. To imagine it is to see a hidden rhythm of the ocean's past, massive mothers guiding their newborns into calm waters, away from the dangers of rival sharks and the ever-present threat of starvation. In these nurseries, juveniles could grow quickly, feeding on fish and smaller marine animals, gaining strength before venturing into the open ocean. The evolutionary advantage was clear. Without nurseries, too many young would have perished. But with them, the lineage of the ultimate predator thrived for millions of years. These sheltered spaces were like classrooms of survival, places where the young learned instinctively how to hunt, how to move, how to become part of the hierarchy of the sea. It is easy to imagine the quiet waters of these ancient nurseries, sunlight filtering through the shallow depths, while small megalodons glided just beneath the surface, safe yet destined for greatness. For the adult females, returning to the nursery was an act written in evolution, a strategy to ensure the survival of the species, a cycle repeated for generation upon generation. The nurseries themselves became sacred grounds of survival, critical ecosystems where life's balance tilted in favor of the vulnerable, only to unleash in time predators of unimaginable scale. This strategy echoes across nature even today, for Sharks of many species still seek shallow bays to birth their young, the past whispering through the present. And so, in the stillness of ancient coasts, the Megalodon story carried on. Each nursery a cradle of giants, each wave carrying forward the future of a predator that would dominate the seas. As you breathe in, imagine the calm waters of those long-lost coasts. And as you breathe out, picture the hidden strength growing within them. Strength that would one day patrol the deep ocean as the ultimate apex predator. Nurseries were the secret advantage, the unseen foundation of survival. And without them, the Megalodon might never have risen to rule the ancient seas. Rivals of the deep, encountering Leviathan, the giant sperm whaling, the ancient seas of the Megalodon was not alone at the top. Another giant swam those waters, a predator no less fearsome, a whale unlike the gentle giants of today. This was Leviathan Mel, named after the biblical sea monster and the author who gave us Moby Dick. Unlike modern sperm whales that hunt squid in the abyss, Leviathan hunted flesh and bone prey with jaws lined with massive conical teeth, some longer than a man's forearm, where Megalodon had serrated blades built for slicing. Leviathan had stabbing spears rooted in a skull as powerful as a fortress. Their bodies were immense, rivaling Megalodon in length, reaching more than 50 feet. Their bulk, driven by muscle and bone, propelled through the seas with terrifying momentum. Imagine the ocean when these two giants met. One, a shark of unmatched bite force, the other a whale of crushing jaws. Both targeted the same prey, early baleen whales, seals, dolphins, and any large animal that strayed into their hunting grounds. Competition was inevitable. We cannot know for certain if they clashed, but the fossil record suggests a battlefield of shared territory where dominance was determined not by size alone, but by strategy, endurance, and hunger. Megalodon, with its ambush tactics, could strike from below unseen until the last moment. Leviathan, with its air-breathing lungs, had the power of pursuit, ramming and tearing with teeth designed to grip and crush. For millions of years, these titans coexisted, shaping the very balance of marine life. Each encounter must have been a silent war beneath the waves, a test of patience, stealth, and raw force. Picture it now, drifting in the dark waters of your imagination, the massive shadow of Megalodon circling below and above it, the looming bulk of Leviathan, their presence turning the sea itself into a stage of tension. These rivalries remind us that even the greatest predators are never truly alone. There is always another equally adapted, equally powerful, ready to challenge the crown. As you close your eyes, let the thought settle. The ocean is not only vast, it is contested, a place where survival is written in tooth and bone. Ruled with serrated jaws, Leviathan with spear-like teeth, and together they represent one of the most extraordinary rivalries nature has ever written into the deep. Killer whale ancestors, the rise of coordinated hunters in the shadow of giants like Megalodon. Another lineage was quietly shaping the future of ocean dominance. The ancestors of modern killer whales, belonging to the broader family of toothed whales known as odontites, were not the largest predators in the seas, but they were among the most intelligent. Over millions of years, these creatures began to develop strategies that no amount of size or brute force could match: teamwork, communication, and coordination. Fossil evidence suggests that early relatives of the orca emerged during the Miocene and Pliocene epochs, a time when ocean ecosystems were filled with opportunity and danger. These early cetaceans had sharp teeth designed for seizing flesh, streamlined bodies built for speed, and brains already trending toward complexity. But more than their anatomy, it was their behavior that would set them apart. While sharks and giant solitary hunters relied on ambush or sheer power, the ancestors of killer whales began to experiment with something radically different: social hunting. They learned to work together in small pods, much like wolf packs on land, coordinating movements to trap prey, to exhaust schools of fish, or to isolate larger marine animals. Each member of the pod had a role, and success meant survival for all. Over time, this strategy became refined, passed down not through instinct alone, but through teaching, through shared learning, through what scientists today call culture. Imagine a world where groups of smaller predators could successfully take down creatures far larger than themselves, not because of muscle, but because of intelligence and unity. These ancient hunters likely tested strategies we still see today in modern orcas: coring fish into tight bait balls, flipping stingrays to disable them, or chasing seals onto ice floes to block every possible escape. In the fossil record, teeth and skull structures tell us they were powerful biters, but their brains, inferred from cranial cavities, tell us they were thinkers, communicators, strategists. This was the rise of a new kind of apex predator, one defined not by size alone, but by cooperation. As Megalodon began to fade from the oceans, these early coordinated hunters were already preparing to inherit the seas, not by overwhelming force, but by precision and teamwork, and in the quiet rhythms of the Miocene and Pliocene oceans. Evolution was drafting the blueprint for the modern orca, a predator that rules not by fear alone, but by family, memory, and mastery of collective hunting. To close your eyes and imagine their rise is to drift into a story of intelligence awakening. In the sea, where every movement, every call, and every hunt was shared, rehearsed, and perfected over countless generations. The story of the killer whale ancestors is the story of cooperation as a weapon of survival, not in isolation, but in unity and in time. This unity would crown them the apex hunters of the modern oceans, heirs to the throne left empty by the fall of giants. Giants. Competition for food. How rivals tested Megalodon's dominance in the ancient seas. Food was the currency of survival, and even the mightiest predators could not escape the rules of nature. Megalodon, with its enormous size and appetite, required vast amounts of prey to sustain its bulk. Early baleen whales, young cetaceans, seals, and schools of large fish all became part of its diet. But Megalodon was not alone in hunting these waters. Rivals pressed in from every direction, testing its dominance in ways both subtle and violent. Liviton Mel, the giant sperm whale with its massive conical teeth, sought the same prey in its intelligence. Social behavior and endurance made it a formidable adversary. Smaller but swift predators, like early orcas, ancestral mako sharks, and even packs of predatory dolphins, competed for scraps, their presence forcing Megalodon to expend energy or alter its hunting grounds. Every kill, every carcass became a point of contention. In those vast oceans, the sound of a whale's distress call might summon not just Megalodon, but a host of competitors eager to feed. Megalodon's strategy was ambush, an overwhelming force striking hard and fast from below. Rivals, however, adapted differently. Some used teamwork, others speed, others endurance. The result was a dynamic balance where even the largest shark in history had to prove itself again and again. Dominance was not simply about size, but about efficiency. Could Megalodon capture enough prey to sustain itself before rivals closed in? Could it hold its ground at a feeding site against another apex predator? Fossil evidence of whale bones, scarred with bite marks, tells us that these battles were real, that more than one hunter often tore into the same prey. The competition for food was relentless, shaping the behavior, the migration, and ultimately the fate of Megalodon itself. For while it was unmatched in sheer power, the ocean was never a kingdom ruled in isolation. It was a shifting battlefield of hunger, strategy, and survival. Climate shift begins. Cooling oceans of the late Miocene. The oceans, once warm and sprawling with life during the height of the Miocene, began to change in ways subtle at first, then profound. Temperatures that had nurtured coral reefs in higher latitudes and filled shallow seas with teeming biodiversity slowly began to drop. A global cooling event driven by shifting tectonic plates, changing ocean currents, and the gradual buildup of ice in the polar regions reshaped the stage on which life had long played its roles. As continents drifted, gateways that once allowed warm waters to circulate freely began to close. The narrowing of the Central American Seaway, the rearrangement of currents in the Pacific and Indian Oceans, all combining to alter the delicate balance of heat and salt that defined marine circulation. These shifts meant that waters that were once temperate and forgiving grew colder, less stable, more stratified. Nutrient upwelling increased in some regions, bringing food to the surface in abundance, while in other places, ecosystems collapsed under the weight of rapid change. For creatures like the Megalodon, who thrived in warm, shallow seas filled with whale calves and large, slow-moving prey, these shifts spelled trouble. Their nurseries grew colder, their hunting grounds narrowed, and their prey began to adapt in ways the giant shark could not easily counter. At the same time, smaller and more adaptable predators, ancestors of modern orcas, dolphins, and other toothed whales, found ways to exploit the new environment. Unlike the giants, who needed warm seas and vast resources to sustain their immense size, these smaller predators could range farther, adapt faster, and learn new hunting strategies in unfamiliar waters. The cooling of the late Miocene was not just a backdrop, but a force, a silent, patient architect of extinction and evolution alike. It pressed down on ecosystems with quiet inevitability, rearranging the map of survival, favoring the quick and the clever over the massive and the ancient. And so the oceans grew colder, more dynamic, less welcoming to giants, and more fertile for those who could bend, change, and endure. In this shifting climate, the balance of power in the seas began to tilt, setting the stage for the decline of the Megalodon and the rise of a new apex predator, one not defined by bulk, but by brilliance and cooperation. The climate itself had chosen its champions, dropping sea levels, shrinking habitats, rising problems. As the Earth tilted further into the cooling trends of the late Miocene and early Pliocene, the oceans themselves began to reshape. Vast shallows that once teemed with prey species began to drain away. Coastlines retreated, and the great continental shelves, once nurseries for life, were exposed to the air. For the giants of the sea, this shift was catastrophic, whose hunting strategy depended on warm, shallow seas, rich with whales and other marine mammals, suddenly found its favorite hunting grounds disappearing. Prey was forced to migrate into deeper, colder waters where the massive shark's bulk became a disadvantage. The distribution of food narrowed, competition intensified, and survival became less about domination and more about adaptation. Smaller predators could adjust more quickly, slipping into new niches, while the largest of hunters struggled with their own scale. Dropping sea levels meant less space for young to be raised in safety, fewer coastlines to serve as nurseries, and more vulnerability to other rising predators. In the end, shrinking oceans didn't just change geography, they changed the balance of power in the food chain. And for the once unstoppable Megalodon, every scimitar of falling shoreline was another step toward decline. Decline, prey on the move, whale migrations toward colder waters. As the climate shifted and oceans cooled in the late Miocene and into the Pliocene, the very rhythm of marine life began to change. The great whales, which had flourished in the warmth of earlier ages, now followed new patterns dictated by the shifting temperature gradients of the seas. Colder waters brought with them rich upwellings of nutrients, feeding plankton blooms and drawing vast schools of fish, krill and squid. In turn, these fertile currents lured the whales, encouraging them to migrate further and further toward the poles in search of sustenance. Where once they thrived in warm, shallow seas, they now embarked on long, seasonal journeys between breeding grounds and feeding grounds, traveling thousands of miles across the open ocean. This new way of life altered the very structure of marine ecosystems, creating predictable highways of prey that predators could exploit. The whales themselves grew larger in response, evolving into the titans we know today. Their massive size and adaptation to store energy for long migrations and to take advantage of the abundant cold water food sources for the apex predators of the Miocene seas, such as the mighty Megalo. This was both opportunity and challenge. On one hand, a steady flow of whale prey passed through their hunting territories. On the other, the whales no longer lingered year-round in the same regions, forcing predators to either adapt to the long chases or risk starvation. This shifting migration pattern would ultimately reshape the balance of power in the oceans. For coordinated hunters, like the ancestors of orcas, it was a chance to learn the rhythm of migration, to intercept pods of whales as they moved along predictable routes. For solitary giants like Megalodon, it meant stretching further, roaming wider, burning more energy to keep up with prey that refused to stay still. The ocean itself had rewritten the rules of survival, and only those able to adjust to the migration of the whales would endure. Part 3. The end of an era for millions of years. The Megalodon had ruled the seas, a predator without rival, a force of nature whose presence defined the very structure of marine ecosystems. Yet no reign, however mighty, lasts forever. As the late Miocene gave way to the Pliocene, the ocean itself seemed to conspire against the giant shark. waters cooled further. Polar ice expanded, sea levels dropped, and the warm, shallow nurseries where young megalodons once thrived began to vanish. Prey grew scarce, not in numbers, but in accessibility. Early whales became faster, leaner, more agile, and new predators arose, working in groups, harassing giants that once seemed untouchable. Orca-like ancestors learned to coordinate, to strike with precision, to exhaust rather than overpower. And against them, the solitary megalodon, despite its colossal strength, began to falter. The very size that had once been its greatest advantage became its greatest burden, demanding oceans of food, demanding warmth, demanding a world that no longer existed. Fossil records suggest that the distribution of Megalodon shrank over time, retreating from the cooler latitudes, confined to warmer waters that grew fewer and farther between. Its presence, once global, became patchwork, fragmented, uncertain. And then, as the Pliocene climate continued to harden, the giant faded. No catastrophic event, no single battle or sudden end, but a slow dwindling, a quiet disappearance. Written not in blood, but in absence, the end of Megalodon was not marked by triumph or defeat, but by the silence that follows when a giant leaves the stage. A silence that echoes still in the deep, carried only in teeth, in vertebrae, in bite marks, etched into fossilized bone. And yet in that silence remains awe. For Megalodon was not merely an animal, it was an age, an era, a living monument to the oceans of deep time. Its passing marked the close of one chapter in Earth's story and the beginning of another, where intelligence, cooperation, and adaptability would take the crown once held by brute strength and unimaginable size. The end of an era was not the end of wonder, but its transformation, leaving behind mysteries that sleep in the fossil beds, waiting to remind us that even the mightiest are not eternal, and that every age of dominance eventually yields to change. The mystery of extinction, slow decline, not sudden death. When we think of extinction, we often imagine catastrophe, a sudden impact, a fiery event, a violent upheaval that erases life in an instant. But the story of the Megalodon is far quieter and perhaps even more haunting. Its disappearance was not a single dramatic collapse, but a long fading, a slow unraveling, written in the changing patterns of Earth's climate and the shifting balance of marine life. Over hundreds of thousands of years, ocean temperatures dropped, reshaping migration routes and prey availability. Shallow, warm water nurseries dwindled, leaving young sharks vulnerable and fewer in number. Competition intensified as new predators emerged, ancestors of modern killer whales. With their intelligence and group hunting strategies pressed into ecological spaces once held by the solitary giant, early great whites, smaller and swifter, began to claim the same hunting grounds, targeting the same prey. Bit by bit, the Megalodon's grip on the oceans weakened, not through any flaw of its own, but through the relentless push of evolution and environmental change. A predator that had once thrived in abundance found itself pushed into corners of the ocean where survival was no longer guaranteed. Generation after generation, their numbers thinned, their range contracted until the last of them slipped silently into the depths, unmarked, unseen, leaving only fossils as evidence they ever lived at all. There was no single day the oceans lost their giant, only the slow dimming of a rain that had lasted for millions of years. And perhaps this is what makes the extinction of Megalodon so mysterious, so compelling. It is not the story of a cataclysm, but of time itself, wearing down even the greatest of predators until nothing remained but echoes in stone. In stone, climate cooling, oceans transform beyond recognition. The world continued to change slowly at first, then with a momentum that seemed unstoppable. As the Miocene gave way to the Pliocene, the Earth's climate cooled in ways that transformed every corner of the oceans. Vast ice sheets began to expand at the poles, lowering sea levels and redrawing coastlines. Shallow seas that had once been warm nurseries for countless species drained away, leaving behind new land bridges, new migration routes, and new ecological barriers. Ocean currents shifted, driven by the widening gap between warm equatorial waters and the growing chill of the poles. Nutrient flows altered, sending rich upwellings into colder regions, while leaving other seas barren in comparison. The marine highways of the past fractured, replaced by new routes, new obstacles, and new balances of life. Creatures that had thrived in stable warmth were forced to adapt or vanish, while new species seized the opportunities born of change. The whales, already moving toward colder feeding grounds, grew even larger to endure the long voyages between polar abundance and equatorial breeding zones. Their migrations lengthened, their bodies evolved, and with them the predators who depended upon them were forced into desperate adjustments. The once boundless playground of the Megalodon worm, shallow and teeming with prey, was shrinking, replaced by deep, colder waters where its bulk was less sufficient, where prey traveled in long, unpredictable cycles. This cooling era reshaped the very identity of the oceans. Coral reefs retreated, fish populations shifted, sharks competed with new rivals, and marine mammals learned strategies that would carry them into the modern age. For some, these changes were opportunities, but for others, they were the beginning of the end. The oceans, vast and eternal as they may seem, are never constant. They transform, they evolve, they erase and rebuild. And in the cooling seas of the late Miocene and Pliocene, the fate of giants was sealed not by tooth or by hunger, but by the steady, unstoppable force of climate itself. Disappearing nurseries. No safe havens for young megalodons. Of the greatest challenges to megalodon's survival came not from sudden predators, nor from a single climatic disaster, but from the steady, shifting movements of its prey. For millions of years, the oceans had been filled with early whales, plentiful, slower, and often hugging the warm, shallow waters where the megalodon thrived. These seas were nurseries rich in life, offering the giant shark both abundance and opportunity. But as Earth cooled, the whales began to change their habits. New species emerged, capable of long migrations across entire oceans, diving deeper, ranging farther, and seeking food in colder waters where the megalodon could not easily follow. What had once been steady hunting grounds became empty stretches of sea, where prey passed through only briefly or not at all. The very rhythm of the ocean shifted, and with it the balance of power. A predator so large, so finely tuned to warm seas and predictable migrations, suddenly found itself chasing ghosts. Energy that once sustained giants was now dispersed across vast, shifting routes, favoring predators who could adapt quickly and cover great distances with less demand for food. The Megalodon, bound by its sheer size and the requirements of its massive body, could not bend to this new order. The whales were not just moving away, they were evolving into forms and behaviors that escaped the reach of the ancient shark. In the silence of those changing waters, the Megalodon's dominion began to slip, not through defeat in battle, but through absence, through emptiness, through prey that was no longer where it used to be. In the end, it was not teeth or strength that determined survival, but movement, migration, and the ability to adapt to a world in flux. And the whales, not the Megalodon, carried that advantage into the future, changing prey migration. Whales move beyond reach for millions of years. The Megalodon had ruled as the undisputed monarch of the seas, its size, power, and ferocity unmatched. Yet evolution had not prepared it for the quiet, relentless changes now unfolding in the oceans. Its vast body, built for ambush and domination in warm, shallow waters, was not suited to the colder, deeper, and more distant seas where prey was now gathering. The great whales, once plentiful in coastal waters, now migrated on long, sweeping routes that carried them far toward polar feeding grounds, where nutrient-rich upwellings created abundance. But these migrations required endurance, patience, and the ability to thrive in frigid waters. For Megalodon adapted to warmth and efficiency in relatively stable hunting grounds. The chase grew harder with every passing age. To follow the whales meant burning immense energy, crossing vast distances, and surviving in waters where its physiology worked against it. Each hunt became more costly, each pursuit more uncertain as the whales slipped further from its grasp. Worse still, new predators were rising, smaller, more agile, more intelligent hunters, early ancestors of modern killer whales. Moving in coordinated pods, learned to exploit the same whale migrations that had once been Megalodon's domain. They required less energy. They could cooperate. They could adapt to the changing seas in ways a solitary giant could not. The oceans that had once fed Megalodon endlessly now demanded impossible effort. The predator found itself trapped by its own size, by the very power that had once made it supreme. It could not shrink. It could not change fast enough. And so each generation grew weaker, more scattered, more desperate. The food was still there, vast and plentiful, but it moved along roads that the Megalodon could no longer walk. And in that silent imbalance, prey thriving, predator failing, the fate of the greatest shark ever to live was quietly written in the cold, salt water of a changing world. A predator trapped, unable to follow the food. The rise of rivals marks the beginning of the end for the Megalodon. For millions of years, it had reigned, unchallenged, the undisputed ruler of the seas. Yet, in the late Miocene and Pliocene epochs, the oceans themselves were changing. Not only did the waters cool, but new hunters emerged to claim their share of the marine world. Among them were the ancestors of modern orcas, ancient toothed whales that learned the power of cooperation. Unlike the solitary Megalodon, these hunters thrived in groups. They moved like a coordinated fleet, surrounding prey, confusing it, exhausting it, and striking in unison. What the shark had in size and brute force, these early orca ancestors matched with intelligence and teamwork. Fossil records hint at this rising rivalry. Scars on whale bones that show patterns of repeated bites, a signature of coordinated attacks where Megalodon relied on ambush and raw crushing power. Orca ancestors brought endurance, strategy, and adaptability. Warmer coastal waters, once nurseries for Megalodon pups, also provided havens for these emerging predators. And in these environments, young sharks were most vulnerable. A pod of smaller, faster hunters could overwhelm even a juvenile giant. Over time, these clashes rewrote the balance of power. The once solitary monarch of the seas faced opponents it could not easily overpower, not because of size, but because of numbers and coordination. The ocean was no longer a kingdom ruled by a single apex, but a battlefield of shared dominion. And in this shift, the seeds of Megalodon's decline were sown. As evolution favored those who could adapt and those who could outthink, not just outmuscle the prey before them, the rise of rivals. Orca ancestors dominate warmer waters. The disappearance of an apex predator is never a quiet subtraction. It is a tremor that moves through every layer of the food web, a disruption whose ripples touch even the smallest plankton drifting in the currents. When the Megalodon faded from the seas, it was not just a single species lost, but an entire framework of balance undone. For millions of years, these giants kept populations of large marine mammals in check. Early whales, seals, and sea cows lived under the pressure of constant predation, their numbers controlled by the teeth of the ocean's ultimate hunter. Without Megalodon, those populations shifted, sometimes swelling, sometimes dispersing into new regions, altering the dynamics of migration routes and feeding grounds. Whales began to thrive in ways they had not before, and in their growth, they reshaped the oceans, consuming more krill, traveling further, competing differently. Smaller sharks, once cautious, now swam with greater freedom, expanding into niches once occupied by their colossal cousin. Yet even this expansion had consequences. For with more predators came new pressures on fish populations, and with altered prey numbers came shifts in plankton blooms and nutrient cycles. The loss of one giant cascaded down into countless smaller changes, unseen but profound. This is the fragile truth of ecosystems. Each piece supports the whole, and when the top is removed, everything below must realign for the world. That realignment was not immediate destruction, but a gradual rebalancing, one that gave rise to the modern ocean we know today. The absence of the giant did not empty the seas, but it reshaped them forever, proving that extinction is not just an ending. It is a transformation, a rewriting of life's script across the currents of time. Ecosystem collapse, chain reactions in marine life, thin the quiet sands of ancient seabeds. The story of Megalodon begins to blur, its presence fading into the sediment of time. The fossil record, once marked by abundant teeth scattered across oceans worldwide, begins to thin as the Pliocene epoch advances. Teeth, those indestructible markers of a predator's existence, remain the most common relic of its reign, their serrated edges still sharp after millions of years. Whisper of jaws that once commanded the seas. Yet, as the epochs progress, the frequency of these teeth diminishes, appearing in fewer and fewer layers of rock, signaling a slow and inevitable decline. Vertebrae, already rare in the fossil record, nearly vanish, leaving little behind to map the full skeleton of this immense shark. What we do find are hints, fragments, impressions in stone that suggest its passing rather than proclaim its dominance. Each fossil discovery is like a fading echo, a reminder of a time when the oceans trembled beneath its shadow. Paleontologists note the disappearance with quiet certainty. After roughly 3.66 million years ago, the giant is gone. Its last traces coincide with the rise of new marine hunters, smaller, faster, more adaptable species, including the ancestors of modern killer whales. The oceans themselves had shifted, currents had changed, prey had moved, and the giant predator could not keep pace with a world transformed. What remains is not a complete body, not a preserved skeleton, but a puzzle of scattered evidence. A tooth here, a vertebrae there, a bite mark etched into ancient whalebone. Together, they paint the outline of a creature so immense, so powerful, that its absence is as striking as its presence once was. The fading fossil record is less a tomb and more a silence, an unfinished sentence in Earth's deep history. And in that silence lies the mystery that keeps Megalodon alive in human imagination. Did it truly vanish, swallowed by time and change? Or does its legend endure? Because the ocean itself is too vast, too deep, to ever reveal all of its secrets. The fossil record fades. Last traces of the giant shark. When we uncover a megalodon tooth gleaming after millions of years in stone, the question is not only what it belonged to, but when. How do we place this relic on the grand calendar of Earth's history? The answer lies in the science of dating fossils, a patient art that combines geology, chemistry, and time itself. Layers of sediment built one atop the other, like pages in a book, give us the first clues. By studying the rock surrounding a fossil, scientists can read its chapter in Earth's story, knowing that the deeper the layer, the older its secrets. But sediment alone is not enough for precision. Researchers turn to isotopes, the slow decay of radioactive elements that act like natural clocks. Carbon is too short-lived for creatures as ancient as Megalodon. So, scientists look instead to uranium, strontium, and other isotopes embedded in marine deposits. These chemical signatures anchor fossils in time, sometimes to within a few tens of thousands of years. Even the fossilized teeth themselves carry information. The enamel can trap isotopes from seawater, recording both age and ancient ocean chemistry like a time capsule sealed in mineral. With these methods, we know that Megalodon thrived from roughly 23 million years ago during the Miocene epoch until about 3.6 million years ago in the Pliocene. The range is vast, spanning the rise and fall of countless species, yet precise enough to tell us that Megalodon's reign ended long before humans ever walked the Earth through careful techniques repeated across fossil sites and samples. Around the globe, we can trace the arc of this predator's existence. From its mysterious rise to its slow decline, fossil dating, in many ways, is the clockmaker of paleontology, a discipline that lets us not only know that Megalodon lived, but when and for how long it ruled the seas. But the seas themselves were changing. The polar waters, though rich in food, were merciless. Cold currents churned, ice spread seasonally, and only the well-adapted could endure their challenges. Whales evolved thick blubber, immense reserves of energy, and long migratory journeys to survive these frozen expanses. Smaller predators adapted with speed and cooperation, thriving in packs where resources shifted with the tides. Its immense size demanded warmth. Its hunting relied on ambush and stealth. Its metabolism required enormous energy just to exist. In polar waters, its vast body would cool too quickly, draining its strength, forcing it to burn through its reserves faster than prey could replace them. The feeding grounds were there, abundant, rich, teeming with whales, but the cost of reaching them outweighed the reward. Each attempt into colder seas ended in retreat, and each retreat left fewer opportunities in the waters it once commanded. Evolution had gifted Megalodon mastery in one age, but little flexibility for the next. It was a giant designed for warmth, trapped on a planet that was cooling, and so the polar seas, glittering with promise, became unreachable. A treasure glimpsed, but forever denied. And in that unreachable distance lay the first whispers of its downfall. And so the Megalodon passes from the oceans into memory, a creature vast enough to shape entire ecosystems, powerful enough to hunt the great whales, and enduring enough to leave behind teeth that still gleam after millions of years. Its story is not only one of strength, but of change, of oceans warming and cooling, of life adapting while giants faded into silence. As you breathe in, imagine those ancient seas, warm, alive, endless. As you breathe out, imagine them quiet now, their greatest predator long gone, leaving only whispers in stone. The balance of life shifted. The oceans moved forward, but the shadow of Megalodon still glides through imagination, a reminder of the mysteries hidden in deep time. Perhaps this is its truest legacy, not fear, but wonder, not the monster of myths, but a symbol of nature's vastness, of the ebb and flow of life across ages beyond our own. It teaches us that even the mightiest must yield to change, and that all things, no matter how great, are bound to time. As your eyes grow heavy and your breathing slows, let the image of the ancient ocean carry you, vast, gentle, eternal. The Megalodon no longer swims, but in your dreams it drifts beside you, still silent, powerful, and at peace in the deep, and at peace in the deep.